everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonam and I am an English language arts teacher in Houston, Texas. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 9 different creative writing assignments that you can do with your students or with your kids at home. The beauty of these assignments is that they are not connected to any particular novel. So the standalone nature of them gives you the flexibility of doing them at any time and connecting them to any writing skill. I do these assignments with my students every year, and it gets even the most reluctant writers very excited about writing. The first writing exercise is called Lift a Line. Have your students grab any book and turn to any page in that book and read the first line on that page. That first line then becomes inspiration for the first sentence of their creative writing story. And if they don't like that first line, they can just grab another book and repeat that process. This has always been a really funny activity in my classroom, and it can be a great way to discuss genre. For example, I have this book here that my daughter is currently reading called The Other Side. And if I turn to a random page, the line says, "My mama says I shouldn't go on the other side," I said. So while this book is actually a historical fiction picture book, I can take that first line and turn it into a science fiction story about a mom who has warned her daughter about going to the other side because it leads to a totally different world. The next assignment is called Memoir of an Object, and I love doing this assignment, especially as the first writing piece as I introduce narrative writing, because this is a great way to introduce character traits and theme. What students do is they choose any ordinary object and write a story from the perspective of that object. In doing this, they consider the character traits of that object, they think about the personality, they think about the different conflicts that this object could encounter on a daily basis. And we talk about theme. What lessons does this object learn by the end of the story? So for example, I could write from the perspective of a coffee mug, and perhaps he's a coffee mug that is really proud to be part of the family because he is the most used mug in the cabinet. Until one day, the owner brings home a new coffee mug from Starbucks. And now my identity as a coffee mug is threatened. And I can write a story around that entire concept. I have had students write about their pets, about notebooks, pencils, their locker, even footballs. I always do this assignment before my students move on to writing narratives about themselves and other people. And so doing this assignment first is a really humorous, fun, lighthearted introduction to a really important concept, and that is empathy. The next writing assignment can be done with any grammar concept, but I do it when I teach abstract nouns, and it's called Abstract Noun on Vacation. An abstract noun is a big idea or a concept that cannot be perceived through your 5 senses. So think emotions or qualities, words like love, honesty, courage, fear, anxiety, all of these intangible concepts. Students choose one of those abstract nouns and try to personify it as though it's an actual person. Suppose your abstract noun is fear. Students need to think about, where would fear work if she had a job? Perhaps she works at a haunted house because she loves causing fear in other people. And if she goes on vacation, where is she going to go? Where would someone whose name is Fear go? Perhaps she goes and she does all these thrilling activities like jumping out of planes and skydiving and cliff jumping because she enjoys the fear that it causes. And while she is gone, while fear has left, which emotion would take over at her workplace, at the haunted house? Well, if fear isn't there anymore, now no one's scared. And so everyone who's coming through the haunted house laughs and is happy, and it changes the whole atmosphere of her workplace. This is a great writing exercise to practice point of view, because students quickly realize that if they write from the point of view of the actual abstract noun, and that abstract noun goes on vacation, how does that noun know what's happening back at home? And that limits the scope of the story. So it brings to light many great conversations about point of view, which point of view you should take in a story to get the effect that you want. The next activity is called the famous meeting. In this activity, students choose 2 famous people to meet in a certain location, and they determine the purpose of that meeting. I use this assignment when I teach how to write effective dialogue. So we learn not only how to punctuate dialogue, but how to use effective dialogue tags and sometimes even get rid of them in favor of using a character's facial expression, inner thinking, or actions to promote great conversation in a story. So what I usually do is I will write one example as a class, and my students in the past have chosen Michael Scott from The Office to meet with Taylor Swift on a beach, and the purpose is that Michael Scott wants to sell Taylor Swift some paper. This is a really great activity for teaching the formatting, punctuation, and nuances of effective dialogue. The next writing activity is called Sell It. For this activity, students choose any ordinary object and write an introduction paragraph trying to sell that object as the most amazing thing you could ever buy. I use this writing assignment when I'm teaching students how to write introductions for research papers. So first we study how to begin an introduction with a hook, perhaps a quote, or describing an object in detail, or even with onomatopoeia. And then students write sample introduction paragraphs for their ordinary object. And I've had students choose things like paper clips, staplers, and tape, and craft some really engaging introductions that make those everyday objects seem extraordinary. The next assignment is another great one for developing empathy, and it's called Diary of My Future Self. Have your students develop a list of milestones that they would like to achieve in the future, and then write a diary entry from their perspective at that moment in time. So they can either write about how they're feeling having achieved that milestone, or that maybe they are facing an obstacle that is preventing them from achieving it, and they write about that. This makes for a really great self-reflection activity and can help students map out their goals. The next activity is called Making Excuses, and this is a great one to do with partners. Have your students develop a list of different things that they are required to do or expected to do, like show up to school on time, or make their bed, or put their shoes on, etc. And then they develop a list of as many imaginative excuses about why they couldn't do that task. Students then have a giant list of excuses, and they can just choose one of them and turn them into a story. So for example, if one of my tasks was showing up to school on time, and one of the reasons I couldn't show up to school on time was because I fell into a garbage truck, then I could take that and turn it into a really funny story. The next assignment is called What If. Students are really great at asking what if questions. Have your students create a giant list of crazy what if questions, and they can come up with anything they want. For example, what if our pets could talk? Or what if I woke up in a different time period? What if I had to change my name? What would I change it to? What if I had to create a new holiday? What would I commemorate? Students create a giant list of what if questions, and then with a partner they can choose one and write more about it, or write a story about a world in which that what if is true. This is a great strategy for simply coming up with lots and lots of creative writing ideas. And a final way to practice creative writing is by writing odes. An ode is a poem that is written in praise of a particular object or person. So again, here we have another writing assignment that's connected to random objects. And I think that goes to show you that even random everyday objects can be a source of inspiration for writing. So for an ode, a student chooses any everyday object, the more ordinary, the better, and create an ode that praises that object in a really dramatic way. I use this assignment to teach figurative language. So my students include similes, metaphors, personification, alliteration, hyperbole, and onomatopoeia in their ode poems. The other piece to writing these odes is sharing them with other people and presenting them in dramatic fashion. And that is always very enjoyable with my students. So those are all the creative writing assignments that my students love to do year after year in my classroom. I hope they inspired you and that you get a chance to try one of them out. If you would like a copy of these assignments along with mentor texts to guide your instruction, I have listed that in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. See you next time. Bye.